Grant Kenny is a former Ironman and he joins us now from Kurrawa Beach on the Gold Coast. Grant Kenny, thank you and good morning. Should competitions continue to be held at Kurrawa Beach?
Yeah, I don't have a problem at all with Kurrawa Beach, and we were competing right alongside the under 15 area, and we had kids from Noosa Surf Club in that area as well. And at no time during the competition, or indeed, when we were having our, sessions afterwards, counselling sessions for the kids, many of whom knew Matthew, nobody, raised any concerns about the conditions. Yes, they were challenging, but this beach is typical of what you get in an open East Coast beach in terms of surf conditions.
But it is extraordinary that there have been 3 fatalities there at the National Surf Lifesaving Championships. You have to admit that.
Look, that is undeniable. The question that's being asked is this beach dangerous? And the answer to that question is no. Is there an element of risk in what we do? The answer to that question is yes. This is very tragic, and I've been touched, in a very close way, in that my son Jet was a friend of Matthew's, and so I'm seeing it, from a fairly close level. I can see the trauma, and it's terribly sad and distressing. But again, and I asked my son again this morning as we're about to go and resume, competition. Is he happy to go out there? Was he concerned? Did he think, that it was big or dangerous? And he's happy to go race. He's not in that he's emotionally happy, but in terms of the sea state, he just said it was. It was challenging, but it wasn't dangerous. His
friends and family, how are they coping?
Look, I haven't spoken to the family. I don't know the family, to be honest. But it's a terrible time. There's a lot of tears around, and in my house as well. But we are lifesavers, and this is what we do.
It's obviously a very emotional time, and another person who's feeling very emotional at this time as well is Phil Bird, whose son Saxon Bird died at the same beach 2 years ago. He says that he blames Surf Lifesaving Australia for this death, and the safety of the competitors is not their top priority. Do you agree with that?
Oh, look, what happened to Saxon was, again, a terrible tragedy. But I as a competitor, as a parent, as a coach and manager of kids, at that time, at time of Saxon's death, my kids were 15, and they're now 17. I can't see what the organisers could have done different, and I didn't assess it as being dangerous. The only way to completely mitigate the risk of this sort of thing happening again is to simply not have competition in the surf, and I don't think that is what's necessary. There have been, sadly, 3 deaths in the water. There have been others that have been forgotten that have happened on the beach over the years too, and I think we need to try to keep this in perspective, as sad as it is, and contemplate statistically how many people have been in this competition over the decades, how many people have gone out through the surf and come back in safely, displaying the sorts of skills that they need to have as to be lifesavers and protect the bathing public of Australia, and that number is hundreds of thousands of times people have gone in and out through the surf safely. It's terrible, but let's look at what are the statistics in other sports, compare it to what's been encountered here in recent years. But importantly, what is it that can be done differently? And I know, because I've been involved in some informal discussions, that there are measures that are being looked at, but they're not easy to implement.
Let's just talk about some of those measures, because after Saxon Bird's death, the coronial inquiry recommended the use of flotation devices. Do they need to be introduced and be mandatory?
Well, see, that's a really interesting point, because a flotation device is completely inappropriate, in my view dangerous, for certain elements of the competition. So, for example, if you're a swimmer, and all lifesavers or even just public that go body surfing would know this, you need to be able to dive deep underneath an oncoming wave, and you also need to be able to swim in it, and you need to be able to catch a wave. wearing whatever that device is. So a flotation device in a surf swim, in my view, is dangerous. I think it's probably, there is a form of flotation device that's appropriate, certainly in surf boats, where I think helmets could be, or should be perhaps, considered to be mandatory. A flotation device, I think, whilst competing in the surf ski, could also be practical. And it's a point here is it practical, or does it cause more problems than what it's trying to save? So there are no doubt that there are applications where it is appropriate. The issue is that it has to be, well and truly understood. Look at the downside of something, any sort of safety consideration, then have it designed, tested and implemented. And it's only been, I think, 6 or 9 months since the inquest handed down its findings. So I think, this is not something where you just run across the road to BCF and grab yourself a vest and come back over and race. This is a fairly complicated situation.